Hi, I'm Steph, and this is View Into Creator Sessions, our series interviewing YouTube creators about the content they make and how they work with brands. Today, we'll be chatting with Josh Seinell from Storybooth about how YouTube is a platform driven by its users, a videocracy. Let's dive in. Hey, Josh. Thanks for coming to LA.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about Storybooth?
Sure. Storybooth is a platform we designed that takes real stories from young people in their own words, with their own voices. We select the ones we think make the most sense, animate them and post them on our channel, Storybooth.
And why did you guys start it?
We looked around at the media that we saw all these young people consuming, and we saw a lot of sugar-coated stuff, a lot of perfect worlds we didn't think were really very accurate or authentic, or we saw really prescriptive content that seemed to be talking down to this generation. We wanted to create a space where this content was really raw and authentic and real and not sugar-coated.
When you set out to make the content, what's your goal?
We're very mission-driven. Our goal is to leave the audience in a better place than they were when they came. There's a lot of boxes to check when you're launching a channel like this. And one of them was, is it going to do that? Is it going to have this impact that we so desperately want it to have? And we get comments back that really we've saved, we've printed, you know, this story saved my life, stuff like that. That's what really,
chills.
Yeah, it's
cool.
what makes us do this stuff again and again.
And we talk a lot about YouTube as a videocracy. It's a place where the content that gets made for the platform is really driven by what users are asking for, views, data, comments. How does that relate to your community?
Well, in a very basic way, we source the stories directly from this community. So not only is it aspirational somehow, maybe my story will be chosen, but we know that these things are top of mind. We can see the volume of them. We understand that if we're getting 10,000 stories about one topic, it's probably a pretty important topic.
And they're involved in every step of the way, from the merch that you guys are making.
Yeah. We leverage this audience. They respond to polls like nothing we've ever seen before, and we ask them everything. What color t-shirt do you guys want? What products haven't we thought of that you might want? What stories do you want to see more of? And they tell us, which is amazing. When
you're looking to source the ideas and you're deciding on which stories to create, what are some of the factors that you're looking at?
Well, of course, we're looking at that volume, right? And is there a concentration somewhere in that volume that we can identify? But we're also looking at what's going on in the world and what we see happening and ideas we have about what these young people may need to see or want to see. And we're trying to get very current too. So when something as tragic as Parkland happened last year, we got stories and we chose a story and published it. So I think we also have found that we can really be very current with this audience, and this audience is very tuned in. They want that. They want to understand and share these experiences while they're happening.
So it is an art and a science, and it sounds like you're taking the data, but then you're also thinking about what's timely, what's happening in the world. And then on an everyday level, you know, what are these young people going through at school, and what are the stories that you can tell that remind them that they're not alone?
That's absolutely right. And look, that was a catalyst for the whole beginning, was to let young people know that whatever it is they're going through, they're not going through it by themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we see that in the community, we see that in the engagement, we see that in the numbers and the views.
Yeah. So it is a very emotional connection, and you're talking a lot about sensitive subjects. When we get into working with brands, how do you weave a message into Storybooth content that feels authentic and still, you know, delivers on the emotional connection?
I think the key word is to have sensitivity to what the story is and what the audience is looking at. And you can't crowbar a brand into it. It has to really occur. So I think context is really important. Does the brand make sense to the story? And then having a light touch. I think this audience is really sensitive to how hard they're being sold versus how invested a brand is actually talking to them.
Yeah, so it's about that brand walking the walk in terms of the values that the audience has, and showing that the brand has the same ones.
Right, and that, to us, that's the key, is if a brand can show the audience or be there with the audience at a time when they can say, we care about this too, we're with you. To us, that's the most powerful message a brand can deliver, and the most effective.
And you've done that with brands like PetSmart.
Yeah, PetSmart was a great example, because talk about an emotional connection. We had a great rescuing abandoned kittens story, and it really brought itself up to an emotional sort of crescendo. And at that moment was the perfect moment to bring PetSmart in. Now, contextual, this young storyteller has to go to the pet store to get all these supplies to care for these kittens. So we had her go to a PetSmart. It just made perfect sense. It didn't feel at all forced. And then at the end, to go back to that, brands care about what you care about being a really strong message. Our end card just said PetSmart cares about you and the pets you care for.
That's awesome.
It worked. Yeah, it was great.
So last question, do you have any advice for brands who are looking to connect with viewers on a deeper level in this space?
I mean, I think brands have to look at creators a little bit differently. It's not just sort of a one-way broadcast medium now where it's just a megaphone. It's really a place to be with and connect with the audience. So if brands start using creators more like a bridge to get to the audience, I think that's a much better.
And also as a consultant, because you guys have so much information about this audience and insight into what makes them tick.
That's really important too, is that I don't think anybody knows these audiences better than the creators who are literally working with them every day, with the audiences, to give them the content they want. So if brands could tap into that knowledge in a more formal way, I think they'd learn a lot more about their audience, for sure.
Thank you so much
for coming. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching this creator session. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out Story Booth on YouTube for more real stories animated.